Jungle.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks so much for being here. I'm instructor Dwayne Jenkins. In today's video lesson, we are going to be talking about the Ionian mode. That's a question I got asked by one of my students about the Ionian mode, what it was about. The Ionian mode is basically the major scale. Okay, so like let's say we were going to play it right here in the key of G. This is our G note right here at the 3rd fret. Okay. So if we were to, and you know it's the Ionian mode is the major scale, and you know it's a major scale because it has that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti sound to it. If you listen, you can hear it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So there it is in 2 octaves, basically, across the fretboard. You can also play it along the fretboard like this. And once again, you can hear that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And this is a great scale to know because it's the foundation of everything that comes out of it. You can get, chords and scales, and everything comes really out of the major scale. So it's kind of the foundation right here. So if we were to play it in G, it would be right here, 3rd fret. You go 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5. That's the 1st octave. And then we would start here and go into the 2nd octave. This would be 5, 2, 4, 5, 3, 5, 2, 3. And in the Ionian mode, you're also going to add the 2nd right here, which is the A note. So that whole thing in 2 octaves. But you can tell right there is the G, that's the ending note right there. And you want to know that because those are the foundation notes of that scale right there in the key of G major. And we also know that it's a major mode because we can play a major chord out of it. Okay, if you look at the G major chord, G major bar chord right here, to make it a major we use this note right here, 3rd string, 4th fret, and if you look at the mode itself, that note is in that mode, so that tells us it's major. Okay, so what's great about this, it can be used in a lot of different ways. It can be used for improvising, it can be used for chords, all kinds of different things. The next thing that we want to do is we want to master the whole step, half step formula. Okay, if you master the whole step formula, whole step, half step, I guess you could call it, you'll be able to find out what notes are in any major key. So in certain keys, you're going to have some notes that are sharp. Okay, like for instance, in the G, in the key of G major, we have one sharp, it's F sharp. How do we know that? Because if we look at the notes, like for instance right here, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Now if that F was here as a flat 7, it's the 7th note, it wouldn't sound like do, re, mi, it'd sound a bit different. See how it sounds different right there by using this F instead of the F sharp? So that's why it has to be sharp so that it has that proper sound to it. So in this particular key, by mastering that whole step, half step formula, we can find out what notes are in any major key. That's a big, big benefit of it, okay? So for instance, between the 1 and the 2 is a whole step. Between the 2 and the 3 is a whole step. Between the 3 and the 4 is a half step. Between the 4 and the 5 is a whole step. Between the 5 and the 6 is a whole step. Between the 6 and the 7 is a whole step. And between the 7 and the octave is a half step. So if you remember that, 2 whole steps, a half step, 3 whole steps. then you can figure out the notes in any major key. I don't care if it's G major, A major, C major, D major, E major, it doesn't matter. That scientific formula will tell you exactly what notes are in the key and which ones are sharp. And remember, when it comes to the major scale, the Ionian mode, you definitely want it to have that do, re, mi sound to it. So in this formula, we have a whole step between each note except the 3 and the 4, and the 7 and the octave. And that's important to know because when you look at your other modes, the Dorian, the Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, so forth, that note formula, that whole step note formula is going to change. Maybe the half steps, instead of it being between the 3 and the 4, it might be between the 1 and the 2, or it might be between the 5 and the 6. And it's what gives those their character, okay? Now we won't worry about those right now in this lesson, we're just kind of focusing on the Ionian mode for now, but the Ionian mode is like the foundation. You really master that, and you'll be able to build everything off that a lot easier. All right, the third thing that you want to do is to learn guitar licks so that you can play within the mode, right? For instance, you want to learn things like hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, string bends, vibrato, you know, things like that. Because if you learn those techniques, which are lead guitar techniques, then what you can do is do what's called phrasing. You can create dynamic melodic phrasing with the mode. And also, if you can play it here at the 3rd fret in G, you can also play it up here at the 15th fret, because this is G as well, it's just in the next octave. So whatever you can play here, you can play up here. So by learning these techniques, hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bends, trills, which is just a repeated hammer-on right there, you can create some really cool melodic, dynamic licks, phrasing. I would highly recommend learn all 7 modes. Okay, learn all 7 of them, but you don't have to learn them all at once. You know, it's a lot of information to be trying to learn at once, but you could learn them once a day for a week, 1 each day, and by the end of the week you'd have all 7 modes down. Or what you could do is just pick like 2 of them. Like let's say we're going to learn the Ionian, which we just learned. And then we learn the Dorian. Okay, now each mode is based off of each note that's in the major scale. That's why, since there's 7 notes, we have 7 modes. The Ionian mode is the first one. The Dorian would be the second one. So if we're in the key of G major, our Dorian mode would be based off of the 2nd tone degree, which is the A note. So it'd be the A Dorian right here. And what's great about these modes is that since their note structures are different, you can create different licks out of them and different phrasing and get different emotions out of them. And that's what music's all about, is emotion, so you want to master that, okay? So right there, we won't really go into the Dorian mode in this particular lesson, but right here, if I know both these modes that are right next to each other right here, I can work within them. And then the Phrygian mode's right here, Lydian mode, Ionian mode right here, Mixolydian mode. So if you know those modes, you create a roadmap along your fretboard. Learn the mode in different keys. Like for instance, right here, I showed you in the key of G major, right here at the 3rd fret. Now what's great about the guitar is a lot of these scales and patterns can be broken down into simplified ways of looking at them if you can kind of figure it out on the fretboard. If you look at them in patterns, the pattern stays the same, but the notes change. Like for instance, if you look at the Ionian mode as a pattern, you can take that same pattern and move it up the fretboard and play in different keys. Like for instance, if we were going to play, say, in the key of C major, we just move it down to the C. This is G, A, B, C right here. We play that same pattern that we played here at the 8th fret. Now we're in the key of C Ionian, C major. And then of course the Dorian mode, since this is C Ionian, the Dorian mode would now be a D note, because that's the second tone degree in the key of C major. So then if you know the mode, you know the scale pattern, and you can play it there. And you can tell, since we were playing the Dorian mode and went back to C, the C note, you can tell we're still in the key of C. Okay, so I would highly recommend learn the mode, like just learn it right here in G would be good, because it's a good place. And then move it around and learn it in all these other different keys. If you're playing in the key of E major, it's going to be right here at the 12th fret. If you're playing in the key of C major, 8th fret. If you're playing in the key of A major, 5th fret. If you're playing in the key of D major, 10th fret. Okay, this is why it's good to know your notes as well along the fretboard, because it's going to help you to know what key you need to play in. And so then what you do is you just kind of can either, you know, create a rhythm that you solo over, or find some kind of backing track or something like that and solo over and use the mode to solo over it, something like this. And what you want to do is master the intervals, okay? I mean, you can play just on one string if you've mastered the intervals of those 7 patterns. So this is just the Ionian mode, so I would recommend start with that. If you want to learn about the mode, start with the Ionian mode. That's your major scale. Start with that. That's like the tree trunk that everything branches out of. Alright, so there's our lesson on the mode, on the Ionian mode, and how to utilize it to improvise with, okay? Because you can definitely utilize it for improvising in any major key, as long as you know what the pattern notes are and where to play it at, okay? Now, if you'd like to learn more about this, I highly recommend you check out my new book that I authored. This one's called Guitar Modes, Unlock the Secrets. This one right here is, as you can see, it's got a few pages in it, and it shows you all 7 modes, okay? And I have them just in modern tablature. I show you the intervals of the notes of all 7 modes. I give you examples of how you can utilize them to improvise with. Give you some phrasing exercises. I give you them in different keys, so that way you know where they're located in different keys, because that's very important. So that way if somebody says, hey, I got a song in the key of D major, boom, you know exactly where to play. And let's say you want to play the Aeolian mode in the key of A major, you're going to know exactly where it's at. And I give you all the stuff that you can do to form like chords. And I also give you some learning assessment here, so that you can kind of test yourself on exactly, you know, how well you know the information. Like, for instance, what is the Lydia mode? Is the Lydia mode major or minor? What is the note formula for the Lydian mode? The whole step, half step formula that I was talking to you about in the Ionian mode. What is the sound of the Lydian mode? Because this great thing about the modes is each one of them has a certain sound to it, and that's what you want to master. This book here will show you how to do that. Simple step-by-step book that will teach you all the stuff that you need to know to master the modes, unlock the secrets. Alright, so you can check that out. You can get it on Amazon. I also offer private guitar lessons, so if you'd like to take some lessons, you can contact me on my website, and we'll get you online or in person, and we'll get you going on anything that you want to learn. I teach beginners, intermediate, advanced students, rhythm, lead, theory, anything that you're working on, how to work on learning songs, reading sheet music, whatever it is you're looking at. I can help you get there. All right? So keep practicing. Study the Ionian mode like I mentioned. Very, very important. Foundation of all the other stuff. And then I'll see you at our next lesson. Take care.